quick word of warning. Just off camera, there is a coop full of very pent-up chickens who really want to get out. So if at any point you hear some clucking, that's them. So a really quickly, same day, the Elden Ring DLC trailer just came out, and I had some ideas about it. So I figured we could escape to the backyard today and go on a little field trip to talk about it. I think that'll be fun. So, you know what? I'll just let those bitches loose. I pride myself in being heavily invested in FromSoft games lore. I mean, I'm not Vatty Video or anything, but I really do like it. And Elden Ring, I had some ideas about the DLC just based on the trailer that came out today, so get ready for some unhinged ramblings. So there's been a lot of hubbub since the trailer came out in the comments section. I'm sure Vatty's hurriedly working on a video right now. But these are just some of my impressions that I got, and I think I have a pretty clear picture of what the DLC is primarily going to be about. So let's just go step by step. We'll go from the beginning to the end of the trailer, and I'll try and identify what I thought were some of the things that stood out. So first off, we've got that opening shot of Miquella in Mohg's boss room. I think pretty much everybody knew that was going to be the portal to the DLC. It just kind of seems that way. And we get a character saying the line, "He wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men. There is nothing more terrifying." And I think this is sort of the synopsis statement, or put the kernel of an idea about what the DLC is going to be about in your head. We've previously, up to this point, only heard things about Miquella being this sort of benevolent demigod and that he was well-liked by everybody. So if the synopsis statement of the DLC is, who is Miquella and what is he about, this question is asking us to think that. It's asking us to ask questions about who Miquella really is. And I guess I just have to play this card early because it's, in my opinion, what the entirety of the DLC is going to be about. I believe that the DLC will be inside of Miquella's dream. The dream or his subconscious slumbering mind inside the cocoon after Mohg plucked him from the depths of the Halig tree. So the next line we have here from the trailer, "In that forsaken place, blood must spill. Blood of your fellows." Now, assuming this is all dialogue being spoken from NPCs to our player character, they're talking about the Tarnished. That might not make much sense right now, but once I get into it a little bit more, we'll come back to this moment and talk about what this means. Just right now, notice that the room that this dialogue takes place in and the supposed NPC that I think is speaking it is in this church-type cathedral room that is suffused with purple light, all these purple candles, really evoking that like Saint Trina, Miquella kind of vibe that the rest of the game gives. Then the next line, the Erd Tree Faithful, is just a continuation of the last one. But the painting that we see when this line is spoken is sort of a bald, sad old man. Again, this won't make much sense for now, but just wait till later. Then the next few shots we get are this weird city that kind of reminds me of Lane Dell. And I'll point out in this shot, because it's kind of easy to see it here, the whole of Miquella's dream, if that's what this is, Miquella's subconscious, it's kind of covered in those like royal bed veils. It evokes to me those really posh Renaissance or what have you era bed veils with the bolts of cloth like draping down around it. And then, of course, we have that weird second tree that's suffocating the Erd Tree, and we'll get into that again a little bit later. But the next line we hear spoken is, "They were never saints. They just happened to be on the losing side of a war." And the shot that we get is this giant cage shaped like a person, full of corpses that is using like fire attacks. And now, if we're going off the idea that this is Miquella's subconscious, I believe this is a representation of Miquella's idea of the War of the Giants in the earliest years of the Erd Tree. I don't think Miquella was alive during that conflict. I don't think he personally saw it, but what he did have knowledge of was everybody else around him's stories of what happened there. And in my head, this is almost like if you have a relative, a grandparent, or an uncle, or what have you, who has been through like a major world conflict, you get an idea of what that conflict was like based on how they talk about it. So a giant cage full of corpses throwing fire, this is Miquella's impression of what the War of the Giants must have been like, based on, I'm certain Godfrey's or who what have you's accounts of how it actually went. I don't really know what the blowjob brain sucking guy is. The only thing I can think of is he's sucking on the tarnished brain, and it's about Miquella's brain. I don't know. It reminds me of those dickworm things from Africa. I don't really want to encounter that thing too badly, so let's move on. Then we get this thing, this cool boss. Japanese culture, the Shishi Mai, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That sort of lion parade costume. We have a couple guys operating it. But then, again, Miquella's subconscious. That first shot, that dangling cloak with that sort of pale grayed foot stepping forward, that evokes to me Morgott. That reminds me of every one of the boss cutscenes where he's introduced, where you get a nice grody shot of his disgusting feet. And then when they cut to that second shot, it kind of has the same framing of the Godfrey fight with Sarash hanging over his shoulder. And if this is some weird subconscious imagery from the depths of Miquella's slumber, this might be his idea of who Morgott and Godfrey were. Because if you remember in the beginning of Godfrey's cutscene, when you fight him in the same boss arena where you fought Morgott at the base of the Erd Tree, there is a respect between the two of them. You can tell that Godfrey kind of respects him and what he was doing. And if Morgott was this Golden Order fanatic who even with his weird idea or relation to it with the Omen Horns, which, by the way, that parade float does have Omen Horns, maybe Morgott did have a certain respect for Godfrey and saw him in sort of the same way. And I think this is Miquella's conflating of them in his head as very similar characters, these like staunch warrior protector type people. Then we get the standout character, the one they made the statue of for this DLC, Mesmer. He's got snake imagery, he's got fire powers, and I don't know if you noticed this, but he's kind of pale and lithe in a way that people have depicted Miquella being, given that they're Melania's twin. Now, the things that we know about Rykard and what happened to him, the snake creature devouring him, we get that line from the ghostly knight in Volcano Manor after a certain number of quests who says something along the lines of, that snake is in control, it's not Rykard in there anymore, it has eaten him and is using his face for its own nebulous goals. And here we have this imagery of Miquella, garbed in Rykard's iconography. In my head, this is how Miquella sees himself in the future, given what's being done to him by Moog, plucked away from his cocoon at the base of the Halig tree and brought to the Dynasty, the Colosseum, or what have you. If Rykard was corrupted by an outside creature and took his ideas and what he believed and turned him into something that he wasn't, I believe that Miquella is afraid that the same thing is happening to him in the real world, the real lands between. Moog is twisting him for the purpose of some dark god, and this is the version of Miquella that he is afraid of being turned into, corrupted into. And this is further solidified to me by the fact that the word mesmer is a synonym of hypnotism, mesmerism, hypnotism. So Miquella's, in the way that Miquella takes on the personality of Saint Trina to become somebody else, he's having a vision of himself under the control of somebody else. This is another personality or in his mind, another version of him. And to me, this is further solidified by the line of dialogue that's spoken in this, when this part of the trailer is shown, which is something along the lines of, I didn't write it down, but, "Mother, is this who you bequeath lordship to? Someone so bereft of gold." So it's an image of Miquella whose morals have been perverted, and that term lordship, to me, that evokes, if this is a post-endgame DLC, or even just that we're the tarnished and we're grace given, we are an instrument of America. We're America's lordship. So Miquella's mother, America. And there even looks like there might be a statue of America behind that character. I can't tell. It's either America or Radagon. I don't know who it's a statue of, but that's just what it evoked to me. Then we get a couple more shots, new weapons, location, some more FromSoft weirdness. I don't even know how to process that hippo, the Erd Tree hippo. I don't know how that fits in. That's probably just weird FromSoft enemy design, but I'm here for it. That looks fun. Then the next line, "I presume you two are keen to know what is kind Miquella doing here." And again, this to me is just a synopsis of this DLC in its entirety. What is happening to Miquella inside that cocoon, and how is he experiencing it? Then we get this spine sword guy, and this is where I'm going to draw back to that painting I talked about earlier. In my head, and this is the weakest link I have, I'm just postulating at this point, In my head, that guy, his cloak kind of reminds me of Morgott. I'm wondering if that brooch at the lynch of the cloak is even the same one that Morgott wears. I don't know. But this looks like a clean version of Morgott with no omen horns. That sort of sad face kind of evokes that to me. And here we see what I think is the same character here, literally pulling a sword out of their head that is in the shape of the Elden Ring. So to me, that's a kind of symbolism of Morgott's self-flagellating nature. He loves the Golden Order and he wants to preserve it, but he has been cast out because what he is, Omen, is fundamentally at odds with their morals and values. And if this is supposed to be Morgott, isn't it nice that Miquella in his head sees Morgott without the horns and views him as just as an old man? That's kind of cute. Although I don't know how that contrasts with the Mummer's Lion, if you want to use a Gurm term. Then we have that same image of Mesmer again. We've got that boss fight. And we get the dialogue line, "Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of Mesmer's flame." To me, this is again a deepening of those ideas I was talking about earlier about Miquella's corruption, because this imagery of him is purporting to serve the Golden Order, but it's using heretical flame. This is his ideals bastardized. Then the line, "Come now, touch the withered arm, and travel to the realm of shadow." And this is synced up with a grab attack from Mesmer when he directly grabs our character. So to me, that's another little wink. Hey, this is Miquella grabbing our character. That final shot is who I presume, and a lot of people presume, to be Miquella doing something to the Erd Tree, turning it into that ghostly image of itself. We'll come back to that tree I was talking about earlier, that secondary tree that's kind of killing the Erd Tree. I think there was a Vadi video where he talked about the one image that they put out of this DLC where that tree was prominently displayed, and he said in that video that, in his mind, this represents a parasitic, tree that is sapping the Erd Tree's energy and killing it, and that it must represent Godwin's corruption spreading from underneath the Erd Tree, which I also believe that is there's some very strong connections there to suggest that. So the fact that in Miquella's dream, he's physically seeing this giant tree killing the Erd Tree when that's not what's happening in real life, that is him being acutely aware of what has happened to Godwin, and that his corpse is down there festering at the root of the Erd Tree. This is Miquella's vision of the future. He thinks that this death blight tree is going to grow uncontrollably and choke the Erd Tree from beneath, which he might not be wrong about. There is evidence to suggest that. And then, if this is indeed what the entirety of the DLC is about, I just want to point out that the title of the DLC, Shadows of the Erd Tree, there's a dual meaning there. I believe it could be the Shadow of the Erd Tree as in Godwin at the bottom, his death blight, and his whole issue with death in America, removing it from the Golden Order, the Elden Ring, sorry. And then if you are thinking of what a Shadow of the Erd Tree could also be, in my head, that evokes Miquella, because he literally grew up in a world where the Golden Order was the supreme civilization and power for millennia. So he literally grew up in a world that was beneath the shadow of the Erd Tree. Very smart, FromSoft, very smart. So in conclusion, my thesis statement for what I think the DLC is going to be, we are seeing Miquella's dream inside the cocoon after he was ripped out of it by Mohg, and we're going to learn about the Golden Lineage and the world as Miquella views it, him, his plans, and how he viewed everyone around him. So we'll get some nice insight into some characters, the Golden Lineage, who everybody wants more information about, which is I think is cool. And if you think about this as a continuation of the collaboration between George R.R. Martin and FromSoft, I think it's very beautiful that the story is being told in this theory from the perspective of a character. And that's the way that George R.R. Martin tells stories, right? Here's this large, vast world with all these disparate elements, and here's a character who lives inside of it, and here's how they see that world. That's a George R.R. Martin story. But having it be this big RPG space that's been destroyed for you to roam around and explore and fight weird enemies, that's FromSoft storytelling. So it's, again, a beautiful continuation of the marriage between those two creators. I don't know if George came back to work on it. I doubt he did. But very, very cool. Very, very excited. I actually am recording this the day of the trailer's release. I took all these notes the same day. I'm really excited. I'm very excited to invade and do PvP and get ganked by a gank squad who's all equipped with those rotating crossbows, the machine crossbows. That's going to be fun. It won't. It really won't be. I highly think that shield weapon is going to have a lot of blocking frames in those attack animations, and it's going to be really fucking annoying to fight, and it will blow up and be very annoying. It'll be like the Dora shields from Dark Souls 3. But anywho, I just wanted to get this video out. I hope there wasn't too much clucking and birds chirping. I'll try and clean that up, but this is a different type of video. I haven't made something like this before. Yep, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.